Globe live show. We are on week 9 of the Vendée Globe. I am your host, Holly Cover. This week, we will be looking at all of the tactics that have been past and future about to happen with Will, of course. And we have a special section on looking at the science topic and looking at what instruments we carry and why what we're doing with Malizia is so important. So I am joined, of course, by Will, who is dialing in from the UK. Thanks, Will, for joining us. We have
Hi,
Cole.
everyone.
We have Cole, who's on her boat First Light, also joining us from somewhere near Brazil, I think. And we have Dr. Léa Olivier, who is joining us from Polarstern in the Antarctic Ocean, which is very, very cool. She's on the boat at the moment. It's only a few days, or a week or two, I think.
Weeks.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah. So Léa is a doctor in ocean and climate, and her aim is to better understand the ocean carbon sink and its changes, with a special focus on the Southern Ocean. And she studies how the physics of the ocean impacts the return pathways of CO2 to the surface, with a particular interest in using data from sailboats, which is, of course, why it's such a good fit with Team Malizia. And she's already been working with our data, so we're going to look at more of that later. And she also has done 5 missions on Tara, so everyone can see where we're dialing in from. There's Léa right down the bottom of the world. Will, I think you're the furthest north.
Most north. I'm the most north.
Yeah, up in the sunny UK. And then Cole right in the middle there of the Southern Atlantic, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're pretty spread out this week, like totally different latitudes. So
Exactly.
it's amazing that we can connect like this on a call, thanks to technology, obviously, and we can all be speaking in real time. So very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I really
it's
liked that
crazy.
we were like in this line down the globe, so I thought we have to show that. So we're going to start, guys. How is everybody feeling from 1 to 10 this week? I think we kick off with you, Cole.
I'm pretty good. I entered the Southern Ocean this week, so it's been a little crazy. Yesterday was super light, so I put up big sails, and now the breeze has come back, so I broached twice. It's just a little warning of what is to come when heading to Australia. So I think I'm probably like a 9. I got a shower today, so I'm feeling a heated shower, like heated. So it was lovely. So I'm definitely a 9.
Solid 9, like it. And how about you, Will?
I'm an 8, I think, this week. It's the end of Christmas. I always love the Christmas break and like very much focused on that. But I'm also excited to get stuck into the new year and heading back to France tomorrow as well, which is like where I'm based and where all the sailing's happening. So it's kind of getting real that the finish of the Vendée is like just around the corner. So definitely excited for that.
It's not so far away. And how about you, Léa? From 1 to 10, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling quite good. I would say a good 9. So today on the boat, everything has been working quite well, and we passed the rough part of the Southern Ocean. Now we're south, so it's calm seas, and today is a lot of whales, so we're all pretty excited about that. So, yeah. Good 9.
Super nice, really cool. I think I'm on like an 8 because I'm just fighting off a cold, which I had over the weekend, but I'm coming out into the better side of the cold now. So we're going to play a little video from Boris, who sent this to us.
We are now heading into lighter
yesterday.
winds. There will be the parking lot of Rio, as Sam Goodchild called it in a message to me this morning. That's a hard to predict zone, light wind, big squalls, thunderstorms, etc. Difficult to get through. We saw that with the first 3 boats that have struggled big time there.
So that was Boris. He's had a bit of a tough week, I would say. We haven't heard as much from him. I spoke to him actually on the phone yesterday with Marie, and he said that while like mentally he's doing really well, he said physically it's been really demanding, like so many sail changes, so many maneuvers, really like this neck and neck racing, particularly with Sam. So he's had very little sleep and maybe a bit more like Figaro racing conditions and less of this much longer offshore long distance sailing. there is actually a chance that Boris might join us in a bit on the call. We don't know yet, because he is, yeah, maybe, he is attempting the mast climb at some point soon, I think, which many of you may have heard about. But maybe, Will, you can talk to the audience a little bit about why he might have to climb the mast, what's going on.
Yeah, so like he said in one of his videos, he's got a small problem with something called the arbalete. And basically, it's like a deflector for the backstay. So the backstay is it's a cable that holds up the mast. It actually pulls the mast backwards to keep it up. And the arbalete is you need it to put the load in the right place on the sail for when you're actually on a different size sail. So he's got a nice window now, hopefully, to be able to go up there with it out being too rough. It's still quite wavy. And it's basically, because it's all up there, you want to really make sure that if you're climbing up there, you can repair it properly. So he's just kind of taking the time at the moment to make sure his repair method is going to work. And he's kind of speaking with the technical team about how to do it. So fingers crossed it all works out. But obviously, it means he's a little bit busy now to be joining us. And I think Boris really isn't a fan of going up the mast. So it's a big thing for him to go up. We know he can do it because he did it 5 days before the start. So I think he's got everything he needs for it to be successful. So now it's just about like executing it, I think. So, but it is a really crucial thing for him to be able to use the other sails in the boat. Otherwise, he can't use the sails like the J2 without the arbalete. So he does need to repair it, and hopefully it all goes well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw right in the last Vendée Globe, that was a big trigger, I think, for him, and a big, yeah, he finds it super challenging to climb the mast, I think. He did, of course, some practice runs in Sable d'Olonne, and I think he's also got like a lot more mental like strength, I think, to do it this time. I feel like he's really, after talking to him yesterday, I got the feeling from him like that he's very ready to do it.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
that's great.
hopefully.
And yeah, when was your last mast climb or solo mast climb, Cole? Did you had to do one in the last race, right? You're on mute.
Yeah, I did. Sorry, it's really wavy, so I didn't want to annoy you guys with the waves that are crashing. So I did 2 mast climbs that were solo during the race. One was right before the Southern Ocean, just as a brig check, and you just go up and you retape everything, and you just check and make sure that like nothing's coming undone. And you bring your little tools up, and just it's really slow, and it's really like so much energy is exerted. And then after I finished the Southern Ocean, I went back up and double checked everything and got the calipers out and measured like lashing lengths and things like that, making sure that there's nothing that's like slowly slipping. And I also had lost my primary masthead unit. Like it had stopped working. It just got too much salt in it, which is pretty usual after 4 months of crushing through waves. So it is such a it's a huge undertaking, and especially if you're afraid of heights or anything. Like I picked a really, really nice spot in like between the St. Helena High and the trades, and so it was super flat. I put up like a bigger sail, like a kite, and the boat sails really nicely, and so you just have to really pick the exact time when to do it and not be like, oh, I'm going to round the horn and then go up the rig. That's like, Southern Ocean is not the time to go up the rig.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's something for the audience to remember as well, right? Even when you say, oh yeah, the boat's really comfortable. I mean, the boat is still swaying from side to side, even when it's balanced with the sails. So like, I think out there, even if you pick the most comfy moment, it's still, I would say, very intense for most people.
Yes, for sure. It's like 12 degrees of change, which is quite violent. You could be down below. Like I went up the rig last week, but I have Elizabeth here who hoisted me up, and it was what I would say flat calm. Like she didn't know what was going on, and I was like up the rig and just like holding on and just getting slammed about, and I was like, please flatten the boat more, please, please, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think, well, you've been up that mast a few times, Will.
Yeah, and yeah,
Your friend.
unfortunately, that was like the worst sea state possible we had. But I think the thing for us, we had like very short amount of time for the glue. We only had enough glue to do the repair once, so we had to get it right that first time. And like that is, it's you can repair it easily, but the problem is it's 25 meters up in the sky, like, and so it makes everything that bit more challenging. And now Boris has to do it solo as well. So if he goes up there and realizes he's forgotten his screwdriver, or the wrong tape or something, then he has to, it's a big job. So he really wants to make sure it's perfect, and he does it once and does it efficiently, and then you're done. So I think the other thing as well is we've tried out a new technique for climbing the mast. So he's got these like foot clips now, which allow you to climb using your like thigh muscles rather than your arms, because you've got a lot more power in your legs, and it leaves your hands free to hold onto the mast, which we found to be a lot better. So hopefully that's gonna make the whole job easier than 4 years ago. So a little bit of a hurdle for him before the finish, but I'm sure he's going to be fine.
Yeah, perfect. Well, we keep fingers crossed for Boris. Will, maybe you could take us on a bit of a recap of the last week, and then shoot into the future and what you predict to be sort of the next days.
A bit of a weather outlook. Yeah. So hopefully you can all see my screen. Yeah, like Holly says, I think it's really interesting to have a look back at the last week, because it has been a really challenging sort of South Atlantic return. I'm just going to start by this. So this is the routings that we all looked at last week, this was the routings we did last Monday, and this is kind of the forecasted position for Saturday, so 48 hours ago. And we sort of looked at the routings, taking them up the Argentinian coastline there. What we actually saw, and sorry, that's to go around the low pressure that was coming in from the west. If we have a look at the tracker at what actually happened, so hopefully this video will be able to play properly, but we can see that a lot of the fleet, they actually stuck towards the east, and they all chose to stay in the same pack there, sailing upwind in the stronger wind. And then you can see Tom Orient up there ahead, and we can see how as that low pressure came in, it's allowed all these boats to sort of pile into the back of him. And if we keep playing forward, we can see in the last 3 or 4 days, Sam Goodchild, Justine, and Boris have all managed to sort of sneak past those leading boats, who are now trying to invest in towards the east to position themselves for the St. Helena High. And we can have a look at what that means for the future now, just in the next routings. But so the current position is basically Boris and Justine and Sam are all sat there. Here we go. So Boris, Justine, and Sam are all sat there as this Western group. And then we've got Tom Orient in the middle. He's sort of been really stuck there, trying to defend his position a bit, but now is a bit stuck between the two groups. And then you've got Nico out here to the east, and he's trying to invest this way, because you have the St. Helena High over here, very southerly position at the moment, and the wind's rotating like this. And so what he's going to look to do is to lock into that shift and then head up towards the north, around the St. Helena High. But in doing so, he's had to sail a lot longer distance. The shortest distance is just to go this way. And that's what Boris and Justine and Sam are all doing. They're trying to just sail the most direct route behind this cold front here. And they've been in good wind so far. They've been able to sail nicely downwind and go quite far up the course. But now there's this big light wind zone behind the front, which they're going to get stopped by. So we can see that on the wind chart as well. So this is the EC model this afternoon. You can see that triangle of no wind from Rio de Janeiro. That's what Boris was talking about earlier. And Nico down in the east, and a bit Paul Mayhat as well. They're going to be able to stay in the wind, get ahead of this front, and then they're going to get the shift and be able to head this way, but at the cost of sailing lots of extra miles. So it's going to be a really interesting moment. It's not too clear who's going to come out ahead, and lots of different strategies. You can see why Boris isn't getting much sleep at the moment as well. There's all these various little squall lines and cloud fronts. We saw Tom Orient seeing over 60 knots and destroying one of his sails earlier this week as well, and that's because of these very active cloud lines, and this here is the front as well. So Tom Orion, Paul Meha, and Nico Lundgren are going to have to sail through this very patchy wind. So although the forecast might say there's good wind, they might actually not experience as good wind as expected, which would be better for Boris and Charal and for Sam Goodchild to be able to sort of sneak their way up the coast. If we look at the routings, so this is 2 days from now, plus 48 hours. I forgot to write that there. The 3 different groups. So we can see that the routings actually want Tom Orient to join up with where Sam Goodchild and Boris and Justine are, while the routing for Nico is more to keep doing what he's going for and pushing out towards the east to then have that nice shift. Generally, what tends to happen is the routings will underpredict how important this shift is. It's really important to have that good angle to then be able to be really nicely foiling up towards the equator. But that being said, it's a very tricky transition zone. So it really depends what happens to Nico in the next 12, 48 hours to see if he does manage to sort of keep advancing nicely. If we look at the long-term routing, so eventually all the fleet will have to do that seagull wing and get that nice South Atlantic trade winds. And then if we look at the long-term routing, so this is very skeptical still, so to say, it's a long way out. Lots can still happen, but basically the routings are happy to be sort of cutting inside the Azores. Quite often you end up with a routing where you have to cut around the outside to pick up a nice low pressure that's going across the North Atlantic like this. But it seems that the lows are a little bit further south over the next 2 weeks, which is good news for the fleet, because it means they can sail more directly and downwind towards the finish in Le Septolone. And at the moment, it's looking at around another week, 8 days or so for the leader. So that's for Johan Risham and for Charlie Dallon. And then for Boris, and for the rest of the fleet, it's looking at another 15, 16 days. So a finish around the 22nd to 25th of January. So if some of you are thinking of coming to the finish line, then you can roughly start booking your travel things for those sorts of dates. So interesting few hours, and we'll probably see 4th place or 5th place to 10th place all finishing in a very similar place, similar timing.
Very exciting. So there's still a lot of chance for Boris. Well, he has been moving up, of course, but there's still quite a lot of room to move up, I would say, into, from 4 down to 10th place. There's still quite a lot to play for, right?
Yeah, it's like he's going into. It's been a really good gains for that group, for Sam and for Justine and for him for the last 2-3 days, because they can just go straight up the course. They've had a really nice low pressure system pushing them up, and now it's going to be the bit where they see a bit of painfulness, light winds. Good for Boris to repair the mast, and then Nico will gain a bit, but it's whether it's enough to overtake them again. So we'll have to see in the next few days, but it will be very exciting.
Very exciting. We actually have quite a lot of requests from people at home, Will, that you do a weather with Will, at half the week, not just the next.
Okay. Yeah.
Because everyone's very
midweek update.
excited at home about what's happening. Yeah, like an update weather with Will.
Okay.
Let's see.
Maybe for the last 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, then you can
Most
keep
important
everyone
bit,
updated.
right?
I think the fans at home will be very excited about that.
Yeah. Okay.
And what is there anything we've seen on the other boats, like any issues, anything that's maybe you think someone's got an issue but they're not saying it? What would be your guys' take on it?
I think firstly there's Tom Orion without his J2. It just shows how important the J2 sail is. He's really lost out a lot. He was, when he went around Cape Horn, he was 500-600 miles ahead of that group, and now he's kind of been overtaken by them. So in a few days, he's really lost out a bit. Probably quite shaken after seeing such a big squall like that as well.
Yeah.
And just being knocked over 60 knots, just coming in like that is a lot. I haven't heard too much else though in terms of major things. Maybe people are starting to keep it a bit more secret now that it's the sort of the final push, and they know that it's going to be a really close fight until the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how about
I think
Nicole?
I saw Clarissa's video this morning. She looked like she was in a lot of pain. She so saying that she has, normal back problems, but that because she's been so dehydrated, she now like kind of crinked her neck. And so now she's in these like slamming conditions and kind of trying to hold herself still. Yeah, I think her team and her are very good at saying, everything's fine, everything's good. But like you can tell that, this is beating her up and this is a problem, and you can spin anything anytime you want, in any which direction. But when you see someone's face and see the pain on their face and how, the limit that they've hit, like it's painful. And I think a lot of these skippers are actually kind of afraid to post something like that. And so I commend her, like, to be vulnerable and open with the rest of the public, like, hey, we are still human and we're battling it out against these elements.
Definitely. People forget the physical, the physical limits of the person as well. It's not just, we talk a lot about the boat having issues, but it's also
for sure.
Right?
It's such a mental game, this race, for sure. And I think the other thing as well is, imagine being Charlie or Johan at the front there, where in like less than a week it's going to be decided if they win the Vendée Globe or not. They're depending on what decisions they make or what happens, and like there's like you've got to keep yourself physically in a good shape as well, but mentally as well. It's such a challenge, this race, I think. So
definitely, and not to make the little mistakes when it get nearer and nearer, right? Like not to feel the finish before it arrives. I guess.
not feel the pressure too much.
Definitely. Yeah. And cool. How are you progressing in your Southern Ocean? I mean, you said you've had a few knockdowns, but how's it going? And do you know how close you came in the end to any of the other boats?
I came actually before I got even to the Southern Ocean. I think I was maybe like 400 miles from the front runners, and then Boris and I passed each other, I think yesterday, by like 1,000 miles or so. Because now I've started the turn. I took a high pressure that actually like turned me, and now I'm actually pointed almost due east. So I am so now I'm moving much further away, and I'm keeping trying to keep the boat moving even in the lighter stuff, because in the Southern Ocean you have the systems that go, and I'm not fast enough really to keep up with the systems like the foiling trimarans or even the IMOCAs. And so the systems leave, and then you got to put big sails back up, get going, and then the other systems kind of catch you. So it's going really well. I mean, the solar panels are like where the sun go. The hydro has to work a lot harder to keep our batteries charged, but it's just part of the, Boris would know exactly the same thing. It's just you go through your checklists and make sure you don't do anything to jeopardize. Like I've switched out all the sheets are in my heavy air sheets. The furling lines have been switched out. So those are the things that are going to break at the absolute worst time. Repairs on sails, just chafing things, adding non-friction tape to things that are starting to show issues. You just do your normal walk-arounds.
All the maintenance before you get into the real Southern Ocean further down, right?
Yeah. Until you see like 50 knots, you don't really know what you need to fix until it's about 50 or 60. Like Thomas Rion, like I don't think he really truly understood, because he probably didn't see it in the Southern Ocean. And then when he experiences 60 knots, he's like, oh, okay, like that's the weakness on the boat. Now I know. So of course he's probably throttling it back. I would be throttling it back too, because now you're like, okay, I just have to finish this. I just have to get to this finish line.
Definitely. Nice. So we are going to go to our science station, our science section with Léa. So really exciting that you're there on the boat and you can join us. It's really cool.
Well, thank you for having me. It's fun to be here and to listen to all of this live as well, like even more live than behind the screen.
Yeah, maybe you can show us a little bit outside your window if it's possible, because I know that people would love to see where you are.
I can show a little bit. As Cole said, it's also gray here, so it's the Southern Ocean. So no sun. It's actually snowing, but I don't think we can see with the camera, but maybe I can put it here so you can see the sea behind me. Maybe you can spot a whale, then you tell me.
So nice. maybe I can play a little video because you sent us a video of the inside of where you are so that people can have a little look. 1 second. Okay. So this is up on the bridge, right?
This is the winch room, so this is where I work, and this is the bridge.
This is the bridge now, yeah.
Wow, that's a proper ship, isn't it?
Yes.
Wow.
It's the German icebreaker. This is some of the icebergs that we can see passing around. So not good for sailing conditions, but
Yeah.
it's
Really cool. Maybe you can tell us just in your own words, like what your role is and what you're researching at the moment.
Sure. So I'm a scientist at the Alfred Wegener Institute. It's a research lab in Germany that is based on polar areas. And so I work on the Southern Ocean and on the Antarctic. And I'm trying to see how climate change is impacting the Southern Ocean. And especially I look at CO2. So CO2 is responsible for climate change. And I'm trying to understand how it goes from the atmosphere to the ocean and how does that amplify climate.
Perfect. And before I actually show the video of the ocean pack, I will maybe ask you about it first. So how does your work link to Malizia, the data we're collecting, and where and how is that data being used?
Yes, well, as you can see, I work on observations. I am not a modeler. I go on boats and I collect data in the ocean behind me, and I can go only on so many boats, and there are only so many research vessels, not that many, and so we need more to collect data. CO2 is not that easy to measure, and the ocean is very vast and very different, so you need to measure all the time, everywhere, so we need a lot more boats than boats like the Polarstern. So this is very useful to have all of the, well, some sailboats, and especially Boris sailboat that is measuring CO2. And yeah, some oceans are more important than others, and the Southern Ocean is key for climate. And so having boats that goes there and that circumnavigate the Antarctic continent and measure the whole Southern Ocean, this is extremely valuable for scientists like us that work with data.
Perfect. And I'm going to show a video. This is actually what I'm going to show you guys is the ocean pack that we actually have on board. So that's measuring data constantly. It's autonomous, so it's doing it itself, pumping in water. So we will show you the video first. So there's no sound because this is the ocean pack itself, and it's quite compact, 17 kilograms, I think, if I'm right now, Will.
Yeah, it's even lighter now. It's like 11.
Oh, 11,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
11 kilograms. And I think it uses quite a bit of energy, but we are obviously making renewable energy. So I think, but it does use like a quarter of the boat's energy, I think, because it's running all the time. And Léa, maybe you can explain all the different parameters that it's measuring.
For sure, we have like a bigger version on board, but we also use the kind of same system that measures both. So they measure the temperature at the surface of the ocean and the salinity, because that's what determines if the ocean is going to move or not, up and down. So it's very important for us. And so Boris also measures the oxygen at the surface, and in my opinion, the most important, the CO2 content right at the surface of the ocean. And so thanks to this, we can understand if the ocean is absorbing carbon, if it's outgassing carbon to the atmosphere. And so for me, it's both important to try to know how the ocean works, because we still don't really know on a carbon point of view how it works. And this is key because the ocean absorbs a lot of the carbon that we emit in the atmosphere. So it mitigates climate change, and we're trying to see how much and for how long. And now that climate change is changing the ocean, how is it going to change its capacity to mitigate climate change? That's a little bit my work here and my work in the Southern Ocean, and the work we can do with the ocean pack.
Exactly. And when the data comes back, so when you get that data sent to you, where is that going? Where's it being used?
Well, first I receive it, I process it, because it's always raw data. So you need to take a look at it, remove everything that is wrong, calibrate, and then you put it in a pretty form that can be used by scientists like me, but other scientists. And so as soon as this is done, I put it online on a database so that everyone can use it. So it's mainly scientists, but you can also download the data if you want. And yes, it's both included in databases where people can download only Malizia's track, but also in big analysis when we're trying to compute the whole carbon sink of the ocean, for example, then we use this whole database and we include the Malizia track.
Nice. And what sort of, I think recently the data was used in some large publications. Maybe you could tell us what that data was used for. And I think also it's one of the only loops of the world, right? The full track of the world that's been done, like without stopping, continuous data loop.
Exactly. No, it's very important data, and it's because it's such a long track for such a long time. It's actually a large part of the data set for 1 year. And so this publication, we call it the Global Carbon Budget, and it's basically every year the scientists, we update where the carbon goes. So the carbon that we emit, where does it go in the ocean, in the atmosphere? And so every year we update this budget. And so with the Malizia data, we updated the ocean part. So how much did last year the ocean take up of CO2? Is it more than the year before? It was a little bit more. That was thanks to the El Nino year. Yes, basically we update, and so we can also see in the same publication that our CO2 emissions, the human-induced emissions, are keep increasing, and that the ocean is still absorbing a large part, but not as much as it did before. It's slowing down a tiny bit.
Okay. And I think one of the things people maybe don't realize, because we often get people saying like, oh, can I just put one on my sailboat, or can we put one, why are they not all on the big shipping boats? I mean, there is quite a lot of data, I would say, on the main shipping lines. So that's actually more sampled, right? But in the Southern Ocean, where way less people go, and also not the cruising sailboats, and also this equipment is quite expensive, relatively, I would say. So it's really this Southern Ocean area which is super undersampled, right? I think, and that increases the model, the accuracy of the model quite a lot.
Yes, for sure, because even like a cruise like we're doing on Polarstern, because we do so much science, we stop, we deploy instruments, and so like I'm spending 3 months in the Southern Ocean, and I just go from basically Walvis Bay to Neumeier, so straight down to the Antarctic continent, then I follow the coast, and then I come back to Chile. And so this is such a small part of the Southern Ocean, and Boris did all the other round in such a small amount of time, and so that's why it's also important to have more than research vessels that go there in the Southern Ocean, because for now it's just research vessels, sailing boats, and cruise ships.
Yeah, gotcha. Super nice. And I mean, you told us a few things already, like that we saw a slight decrease in what the ocean is able to take up or is taking up. But is there any other things or any other changes that are happening that you have seen recently, and you can use the data to analyze?
Yes, like what we are looking at also on this cruise here on Polarstern is trying to see the increase in temperature in the Southern Ocean, because the whole ocean is warming, so that impacts the carbon, but also the temperature of the ocean, sea ice. And so we have a lot of people that are sea ice experts, physical oceanographers. We have seal tigers, whale people, and we're all trying to see what has changed here. Yeah. And yes, right now we can see a steady increase in temperature in the Southern Ocean at the bottom waters of the Southern Ocean. So it's very deep. We got like our instrument to 5,400 meters yesterday evening. So right at the bottom, we've stopped like 5 meters from the bottom. And yeah, we can see that this water mass, even if it's been at the surface a very long time ago, it's still increasing in temperature due to climate change. So
wow. That's impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, scary as well, but yeah, it's really interesting. And how many people are actually on the boat with you there, Léa?
We're quite a few, so I think we're about 50 scientists and 40 crew members. I would say around 90 people on the boat. So, but it's a big boat.
And what's your like day to, like you said you just came off your shift, but what's your day to day? Do you have to like work in the night as well?
Yes, so I work on shift, and I'm the 0 to 4 shift. So I work from midnight to 4 in the morning, and then from 12 to 4 in the afternoon.
Oh, that's the brutal shift.
Yeah, graveyard shift. Yeah.
Lots of coffee.
It's the same as what we did in the ocean race. Yeah, the same watch schedule as the racing. Yeah.
4 hours, right?
4 hours. Yeah.
4 hours on, 4 hours off.
You know, Leah, Will is actually also did oceanography, right, at university, Will? That could have been you. You could
A
have been
while,
on a
yeah,
boat on
no,
ocean.
I know. I've always admired the being on the research vessels. It's very cool to see. And I have one other question though, is what is, because we measure with the ocean pack. What's your like measurement techniques? You obviously drop things in the water, but what's like, do you go down to 5,000 meters every day, or what's your like
Yeah,
typical measurement method?
I think 6 times a day, something like this. It takes us a long time. It takes about 4 hours to get the instrument up and down. And so, well, I'm not next to it, so I cannot show it, but basically we call it a CTG rosette. So it has a lot of bottles and we get it down. And then on the way up, we close bottles at different depths so that we can sample the water from 5,000 meters to the surface and measure many parameters, such as carbon, because the system, like the ocean pack or the one that we have on board, measures only the surface, but we want to know what's happening below.
Yes.
So,
Wow.
And it takes 4 hours, you said, to go up and down. You must have also a very long cable, I guess.
yes, we have a gigantic winch, several winches, several CTDs. We have also a lot of spare in case something happens. And yes, we go down with 1 meter per second, and so for 5,000 meters, and then we stop at some little steps when we want to close the bottles. So yeah, about 4 hours, 5 hours, depends a little bit. So yes, that's part of what I do, my job, but we do a lot of other things on board. Yesterday, the day before yesterday, we deployed a mooring, so this is also very specific. So basically, we drop an anchor at the bottom of the ocean, and then we put a flotation device on top so that there is a line that is straight in the ocean from the bottom to the top, and we attach a lot of instruments on this line, and we leave it in the ocean for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and then we come back and we pick it up. So yeah,
That's
2 days ago, we deployed something like this with 2 of these CO2 sensors that are going to stay in the Southern Ocean for 1 year, collecting data for us in the rough weather while we go away.
Yeah. So
Wow.
interesting.
Wow.
And you mentioned you saw whales, but did you see any other animals? Our guests always love to know if there's any other animals you've seen.
So this morning we saw our first penguin, but very far away. Not sure which type of penguin, but we saw our first penguin swimming, so very happy about this.
Aww.
And along the coast of Namibia, we had a lot of seals that are playing with the instruments, so that's always really nice.
Oh, that's so nice. Very cool. I love seals. They're amazing. And do you see any of the big birds as well, or any birds?
Yes, albatrosses almost every day, and then more smaller birds that are, yeah, usually they like coming around the boat. Sometimes the smaller ones, sometimes they stop.
So nice. They're inquisitive, I guess.
Yeah, and they're wondering what we're doing there, stopping for 4 hours and doing nothing.
What's this new thing?
Yeah.
What are the humans doing? Yeah. And we have actually loads of questions online, of which we can't answer all because we don't have the time. But they were asking, some people were asking which other boats carry instruments. I think there are 4 boats in the race. Well, the ocean in particular. There are 4 boats, I think, in the race with an ocean pack this time, I think. Which is the first time that's happened. So it's amazing. When we did it, we were the only boat to do the full lap with an ocean pack. So I really hope everyone makes it back with full data laps so that we can compare, because that's always really interesting as well, I think. Yeah, super
for sure.
nice.
It's so nice to have all the data from the 4 ocean packs quickly.
It's kind of amazing that we're able to actually study as they're racing. I think that's actually almost more important, and this is going to sound terrible, but I think it's almost more important than the race itself, because like this data will then promote so that we can have more races later on, and that this can continue. And this is the type of research that we need to be putting time and energy and money and resources into, because without, this data, like how can we get to the bigger heads of legislation to say, hey, like massive things are changing, and the Southern Ocean's like a desert, and if you're finding human interaction in this desert and they're thousands of miles away, we have a problem, like a serious problem, and it's something that we need to deal with. So I think it is a little bit more important than even the race itself. that's my opinion.
It lives on forever, right? Like the data is, it continues to be used, and we see even like 4 years later, you guys using the data that Boris found, either in the Vendée Globe or the Will as well was involved in collecting in the ocean race. So yeah, I fully agree. So there were probably lots more questions. We'll try to answer in the next show. I'll try to answer, or Will maybe can demonstrate during the master climb, because that's one of the main questions. But we are going to go on to our promo section, one of my favorites this week. What is everybody's favorite book about the ocean or sailing? It can't be Boris's books. I've vetoed them. So of course Boris has great books, but what are your guys' other favorite books? Who's going to go first?
Cole first.
Okay, I'll go first. I've read almost all of them, I feel like, because I've had lots of time. But I actually really, one of the first books I ever read was this book called Dove by Robert Lee Graham. And it's about a 16-year-old boy who sails around the planet solo with his cat. And he stops in all these different places. I think he does it in like the 70s. And so he goes to all like these tribal, places in Polynesia that had never seen like another human. And he's just a 16-year-old boy that's doing this on his like 25-foot boat, which is really tiny. And it's an incredible story about how, it's the planet is so expansive, and we really, as humans, we only see such a tiny little, we see like our next door neighbor, but we don't understand that there's like all these cultures and all these people in it. So it's a pretty good book. I recommend it.
Nice. I'm going to read it, to be honest. You already sold it to me. And how about you, Will?
Am I next? Okay. Mine has always been, and for a long time has been, Ellen MacArthur's Taking on the World, which was her first book about doing the Vendée Globe, sailing around the world. I remember reading it when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and that was like the first time I'd heard of the Vendée Globe as well. And like just following her story from like saving up her pennies to get an optimist, and then to kind of move to really sort of take on the French and really get stuck in the whole world in France, and then finishing second in the Vendée Globe at 24 years old. It's just,
amazing.
She almost won it.
She almost won it.
Won it.
Yeah, exactly. And actually that was, it was due to a daggerboard in the last part of the race. So lots can still happen. Yeah. Daggerboard breaking in the last part of the race. Just like always been my idol and an inspiration. So that book was really the thing that got me into sailing and into the whole Vendée Globe world. So that's my book.
Super nice. That's a good one. I love that one too. And Léa, how about you?
So many good choices now. I have many books to add to my reading list. Sailing wise, I would say my favorite one is La Longue Route by Bernard Moitessier. The Long Road, I guess.
Yes.
Classic.
Yeah, I just really like to see how, like this man really loved the ocean and being by himself sailing, and I thought that was really inspiring how he can almost like be one with the ocean and just keep sailing for the sake of it and leave everything behind for a little while. And I thought that was, really inspiring.
It's really good. Yeah, I also like that one. Mine has to be Godforsaken Sea, because I remember I read it, I think like 3 weeks after I started working with Boris, because he told me I had to read this book. And I really, really loved, so I read it. Like I actually read it, I think in like a day or two. And I remember thinking like, so interesting how different people's mindsets, they're doing the same race, they're both all facing like these crazy conditions, and yet their journey is so different, and how they handle the situation is so different, how they perceive it even is so different. And so for me, that book like really stuck with me. I loved it. You've probably all read it, I guess, but it's like a classic, but it's really, really good. I would highly recommend it. And actually, just before we go on to the last section, we had one question which I really like, so I'm going to ask it to Léa. Unlike solo sailors, on your research ship, you're with lots of other people, and how does that affect the experience of being at sea? Do you do like group activities, or how does it work? Because it's a long time as well, 3 months, 4 months nearly.
Yes, well, for sure, it's a little bit different, but I guess it's a different scale, but it might be closer to what you experience during the ocean race, where you're sailing with other people and you have to stay in a tiny place for a very long time with the same people. So, I do feel like it can be quite a challenge, but it's also nice to be able to share the same thing with so many people. And it's something that I appreciate, the community feeling that you have on the boat and be able to experience the same thing and share it right away. I think that's great. But it can be
Do you do
challenging.
movie night?
What, sorry?
Do you ever
Movie
do like
night. Well, if I was not working from 0 to 4,
I was going to say she has to go back to work straight after. Yeah.
a movie day?
Yeah, movie day, movie morning.
Movie morning. Yeah, we did do that a little bit at the beginning when there was not too much work. We could watch stuff together. Now we kind of spot whales. That's our main movie.
That's your TV.
Super nice. Okay, guys, we're in the last section, prize section. We have last week's winner was actually already a winner, so she's won twice now. She's quick. Katrine Bunsak, you've won again, so contact us again, just so I have the chain, and you won last week. So we have the prize this week, guys, or the competition, sorry. That's again the first one to put the correct answer in the live chat. All of the terms and conditions are in the description. And the question is, how many boats are still in this race? How many boats are still in this race? Correct answer in the live chat. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It has been a very nice week. Thank you so much, Léa, for making the time. I know you just came off shift, so that's super nice. And it's really, really nice to have you with us. We appreciate it a lot. And yeah,
amazing.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
thank
really,
you so much for having me. It was so nice to participate.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you all, Will and Cole as well. And we will be back next week, same time.
Yeah.
We'll be getting ever closer to the end. At the end, we will also try to do a very special final version with Boris. Let's see if that works. But yeah, thank you guys and tune in next week. Ciao. Bye.
Thanks, Holly. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, Holly.